His head coach agreement that was executed in January of 2016 made reference to a 4-year plan, but that 4-year plan was not incorporated into the contract at that time. That 4-year plan was presented to Coach Jackson within 2 months of his hire. That 4-year plan was also in draft form at that initial presentation, and it was finalized in June of that year. And conversations were held between Jimmy Haslam, the executive team, and Coach Hue Jackson at Jimmy Haslam's home in Bracknell, Ohio. It was in that 4-year plan where there was very clear percentages that were allocated to different team members, and team members being the executive leadership and Hue Jackson, based on benchmarks that were achieved within that 4-year plan. When Hue Jackson asked very specifically, I don't understand what these benchmarks are. How are we to attain these goals? I don't understand what this really means. And it was told to him by Sashi Brown, it's $500,000 of easy money. Don't worry about it. We're still working out all of the details. As the process kept unfolding, and Hue Jackson would ask him, what does this really mean? Explain all of these formulas to me on how I'm getting allocated a percentage of a financial share, and everybody else is getting allocated a percentage of financial shares based off of these benchmarks. How am I to achieve these benchmarks? At that time, he didn't understand it was part of a plan to tank the Cleveland Browns football team during 2016 and 2017. So it's not that he was given, it's very distinct and different from what happened from the reports from Brian Flores, where somebody came to him and specifically said, here is a very specific dollar amount to do a very specific task. That was not the situation in this with the Cleveland Browns organization. Collectively, with that particular document and having all power and authority stripped from him to not only understand what that document was, what the formula was for achieving those benchmarks within that document, but even so much as, and for you to understand how those bonuses were paid out. Staff bonuses were paid out at the end of their fiscal cycle. So, and they're direct deposited into your account. So when Hugh would go back and notice that, extra money was deposited in his account, went back to leadership and said, what does this represent? And their answer was your bonus. Well, what does this represent? Their answer was bonus. So his immediate reply to Jimmy Haslam was, I don't need bonus. I need money to recruit proper players for the team. Keep your bonus. In the transition of all of these things, he also knew that the team was not being built in a manner that was competitive or able to be competitive within the National Football League. He immediately contacted the National Football League, contacted Roger Goodell, spoke with Troy Benson. Troy Benson also made a trip to Cleveland and specifically discussed Hugh's observation that the Cleveland Browns organization is not trying to win. Nothing happened. There was no follow-up. There was no investigation. There was nothing. So Hue Jackson began writing extensively to the organization, to Jimmy Haslam, directly and personally, and said, what are you doing? This is not working. You're destroying the team. You're destroying the morale. You're destroying coaching careers. You're destroying careers of players. You're putting players at risk. Jimmy would consistently tell him, we'll make a change. And that change never happened. So when people say, why is he just now coming out with this? This is not something that's new. This is something he's been battling for a long time. He did all proper procedures by the channels in the recommendations and the rules under the National Football League organization. If you have a complaint, there's a rule, there's a chain of command that must be followed. He followed that chain of command. He submitted complaints to the National Football League. He initiated a procedure for arbitration, of which was denied after 2 days of hearings in New York City, because the league said, although they admitted that 95% of what Hue Jackson alleged in his formal complaint was detrimental, and that's their words, not ours, that what he was alleging, 95% of what he was alleging was detrimental to the National Football League. They said because he signed a release agreement, they refused to do any type of investigations into fraud and tanking by the Cleveland Browns organization. So this is nothing that's new. This is something that he's been fighting since he knew what was going on. He followed every procedure, every protocol, and every rule under the contract that was obligated to him in the National Football League's Constitution and bylaws. And here we are today.